Good day. My name is Alan Chief Strongblood Palmer. Chief Strongblood. St. Vincent the Grenadines' favorite and most hated son, the diaspora machismo. At the end of March 2022, the residents of the town of Layou got up in arms and started a public protest of the proposed jetty that was supposed to be constructed by SVG Aggregate in the town of Layou, particularly in Jackson Bay in Layou. The residents of that small eastern coast town of Layou declared that they did not want another jetty on their seafront. The waterfront of Layou already have two underused jetty, one that is owned by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the other that is owned by C.O. Williams. The jetty that is owned by C.O. Williams and Company Limited, which is a quarry or stone mining company, used that jetty to export aggregate. SVG Aggregate Company is also a stone mining company. There's a jetty on the seafront of the town of Layou that is used for the export of aggregate. This jetty is highly underused, but yet SVG Advocate saw it fit to send in an application to crowd the beachfront of Layou with a third jetty. We learned that the application that was submitted by SVG Advocate, that was published in the paper as is required, did not have a social or environmental impact study associated with the application, and it did not have a plan for the jetty. Here we see the planning division of St. Vincent and the Grenadines cause the notice to be published in the papers, yet there was no plan. The planning division had no idea what was the width of the jetty, what was the length of the jetty, in the location in which the jetty will be constructed. We have to remember that a plan not only tell you specification of the jetty, it also give you a location of where the construction are to be done. Yet a notice of application was published. You all should be aware that anytime you are dealing with any project that has to do with the sea, the rivers, lakes and forests, there have to be an environmental impact study completed. And if you are planning to do an industrial project in or near to a community, you have to present a social impact study and the plans along with the application. When the Department of Planning calls an application of a project to be published in the papers, it is because they realize that this is a project that they can get behind. So now they are giving the community an opportunity to object to that project as the law requires. So the question was asked here, why was the planning department of St. Vincent and the Grenadines willing to approve a project for the construction of a jetty, Jackson Bay, Layou, without an approved company conducting an environmental impact study, a social impact study, and have a draft plan by a reputable architect? No matter how hard I tried to find out who was behind SVG Aggregate, I couldn't find out the man behind SVG Aggregate. Some say Julian Francis is the man behind SVG Aggregate. Some say Kelly Glass is behind SVG Aggregate. My Auntie Gail, the investigator, says that it was Kelly Glass. I'm going with Gail's information. Kelly Glass was brought to St. Vincent and introduced to Vincentian by Sir James Mitchell. And it seems as soon as Kelly Glass got his foot in the door, he have been getting involved in every possible thing that can make a dollar in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Kelly Glass is involved in it. He is not giving Vincentians the opportunity to invest in their own country. He is using the profits that he make off of Vincentians to buy St. Vincent, and it seems like he wants to own Vincentian also. No wonder Ralph Gonsalves was willing to try to deceive the general public on behalf of Kelly Glass, because Kelly Glass is a millionaire who is above the laws of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That is why the planning department saw it fit to publish the application in the newspapers without a social impact study, an environmental impact study, and without the proper authorized plans. When you see Ralph Gonsalves come on radio and television and cause himself to be published in the newspapers, and he tried to blatantly deceive the Vincentian public, you know that it is a project that is close to him or close to his heart. In Not So Many Road, Ralph Gonsalves said that he was happy with the social vigilance of the people of Layou, but he was then knocking them and telling them that they must understand the law. He was saying that this was not a real application, but it was an application in principle. There is no such application in principle. Trying to give the community that he knew what he was speaking about. But from his utterance, the more he spoke, we know he did not know what he's speaking about. He spoke first about the application in principle. He said that the company did not submit an application. Do you think the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines have the resources to be wasting our technocrats' time to review application that does not have the information they need as to whether to approve or to deny the application, and to cause such application to be published in the papers? Foolishness. Although some of the things that he pointed out was true, you have to produce an environmental and a social impact study, and you must present a plan. And he's trying to tell the public to make it seem like you know what you're saying, and to make it seem like this application in principle is really something. He talked about the leasing of the seabed. Use your head. The only time the government will draft and sign a lease of the seabed and partial lease of the beachfront is after the planning department have approved the project. Let me show you how nothing that Ralph Gonsalves says has any weight, because the man is a known habitual liar. For example, the North Leeward Quarry project have already been given permission to construct a wharf in North Leeward. There was no publication of the application. There was no application in principle submitted. There was no environmental or social impact study presented. And there was no plan from a reputable or a licensed draftsman presented. Yet Ralph Gonsalves have already approved the wharf at North Leeward Quarry Company to be constructed. And I can bet you this, C.O. Williams and Company, who Julian Francis should be negotiating with on behalf of SVG Aggregate, they have a jetty that is used for the exportation of aggregates. I can bet you any money that C.O. Williams and Company did not produce an environmental impact study, a social impact study, or even a plan for the wharf that they are currently using. That C.O. Williams and Company Limited does not have an official lease agreement with the government for leasing the seabed and the beachfront, which they are currently using to export aggregates. My people, Ralph Gonsalves is a mess. The ULP Labour Party is a mess. The way they do business in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is very messy. And that is why our economy have been shrinking. You realize that the only thing the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been facilitating the export of in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is stone. Stone. Tough, like Ralph Gonsalves said. My name is Alan Chief Strongblood Palmer. Chief Strongblood. St. Vincent and the Grenadines' favorite and most hated son, the Diaspora Machismo. I am asking you to share this video, and please leave a comment on this video. Those of you who look at the earlier video and was misled when I said that Julian Francis was the man behind the Jetty project in Jackson Bay in Layou, and I said that Julian Francis was also the man behind SVG Aggregate, I was misled into believing that. I did not intentionally deceive you. So I am correcting the fact But if Julian is expecting me to apologize to him, Julian could kiss the crack in my back. Right? That's the only apology he's going to get from me.